out there at the Final Four as we popped our cherry, per se, out there with the national media in covering such a great event out in New Orleans as the Final Four. And somebody that Andrew Martinez has followed and kind of rolled with over the last few years as you dove into the sports talk world. And that is Dan Wolkin. How are you tonight, Dan?
Hey, I'm good. What's going on?
Man, we're here. You know, it's a Sunday night. Beautiful time of year to be in Houston because we suffer through the summer months. So we get really giddy when the weather is in the mid-60s and beautiful sunshine for a weekend here.
Hey, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Can you guys reconnect me or something?
I think we hear you loud and clear. Let me see if I can talk a little bit more into the microphone here. How's that? Uh-oh, did we lose Dan?
Yeah, we'll have him. Hey, Dan, just
I can barely hear you.
Yeah, we'll get. Can you just give us a call right back, and we'll try to fix that problem.
We'll try to get Dan back on the line here. Make sure that sounds good. Dan Wolkin, why don't you tell the listeners out there a little bit about Dan?
Yeah, Dan writes for the Daily, and basically the Daily is it's a newspaper that's set up, for the iPad, specifically for the iPad. So he writes a lot of national columns about, the sports. He's really into college football. He's also into most of the college sports. Lately, he's been tweeting a lot about in the NHL stuff of what's been going on with that. We're trying to get his takes on what's been going on with the NHL playoffs. But he is someone that we ran into at the Final Four.
Yeah, and I'm really excited because we haven't had somebody that follows as quite as intently as Dan does. A lot of tweets, very, very big on Twitter, and of course the Daily on the iPad is a big hit. So we're very happy to bring him on the line now. Dan, are you back with us? There he is. All right, Dan, we got you loud and clear, brother.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you a little bit better.
Awesome,
cool.
Awesome. All right, well, we were just kind of setting it up for you. We don't talk a lot of puck here on Sports Rap Live, but we're excited because we know you follow it pretty intently, and we want you to get us up to speed on what's going on.
Yeah, well, it's been a really good playoffs, and a lot of these games, pretty much every game has been close. Very few blowout games, and the series have all been interesting. And you've got a Game 7 in the East coming up with Boston and Washington, so that's kind of cool. Anytime you get a 7-game series, that's always a lot of fun. You've got LA Vancouver. They're tied at 1 in the third period right now. I'm watching this game, and LA's trying to close out Vancouver, which would be a pretty big upset since Vancouver was the best team in the regular season.
Hey, Dan, I want to ask you, I want to pick your brain a little bit here as you're sitting there watching hockey and talking to us at the same time. Why do we have so many upsets in the first rounds year to year?
Well, there's a lot of parity, and it's a league that there's just not a ton of difference between most of the teams that are in the playoffs, and there is some, and obviously you've got your premier teams every year that should advance in the playoffs, but there's just not a huge difference. And the great thing about hockey is that a goaltender, a hot goaltender, a bounce here or there of the puck, games are going to be close, and you just have a lot of potential for upsets when you've got 1-goal games being played most nights, and it comes down to one save or one lucky bounce, and so every team literally that's in the playoffs has a chance to at least win a round or two, and that to me that makes it more exciting than the NBA. And I love the NBA, but typically you're just not going to have an upset in the first round because you have such clear differences between the teams.
Hey, Dan, it's Andrew. Does anything really compare to the NHL playoffs? Because to me, it doesn't seem like there's anything where you have this many teams that are, the seeding really can be thrown out the window, and the teams are so close, in styles and matchups. We have the NFL playoffs where sort of you have teams that get hot, but is there anything that really compares to the NHL playoffs?
No, I mean, baseball maybe a little bit because baseball is a lot about the pitchers and the rotation and the bullpens and those kinds of things. And one guy, if you've got one guy who's a number one pitcher can win a couple games in a series for you, you've got a chance as an underdog. But one thing about the NHL is home ice advantage really tends never to matter. It just doesn't really play out that teams win at home. In fact, in the Western Conference right now, I think the road teams have a winning record overall so far. So when you have that year in and year out, that really is a big advantage of the underdog, because it means that the regular season and getting a good record in the regular season to get that home ice advantage just doesn't really mean a whole lot.
We're speaking to Dan Wolken, of course, at Dan Wolken, WOLKEN on Twitter, and we're getting caught up on the NHL playoffs. Now, let me ask you straight up, who is playing their best hockey of the season right now in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Well, when you look at the Western Conference, Nashville was really impressive, beat Detroit in 5 games, but all the games were close, but Nashville played very well in that series. St. Louis, this is for that group the first time they've been in the playoffs, and for a team with such little playoff experience, they were phenomenal against San Jose in the first round. They won that in 5. So both those teams are going really well right now. In the Eastern Conference, it's a little bit more confusing. Philadelphia closed out the Pittsburgh Penguins today. Pittsburgh, going into the playoffs, was the favorite in Las Vegas to win the Stanley Cup, and for Philadelphia to win that series, they're obviously playing well right now, but they've got some goaltending issues. They're scoring a lot of goals, but they're giving up a lot of goals. So Philadelphia is a team to watch out for out of the East. But right now, I'd say probably St. Louis or Nashville are teams that are playing as well as anybody.
Awesome. All right, well, give us your up-to-the-minute picks, and I'm going to rewind a little bit and ask you about some of the decisions on suspensions, but just give us your up-to-the-minute picks on who will meet for Lord Stanley's Cup in June.
Well, I'm thinking. I'm really thinking Nashville's going to come out of the West. They've got the best goaltender. They've played well all year long, and this team's kind of been on a mission, I think, to make that next step. So I like them coming out of the West, and then coming out of the East, I still think Boston's got a good chance. They just pushed their series to a Game 7. If they can win Game 7 and get through this first round, I think Boston's got a good chance to get back to the final.
Awesome. All right, now the focus on vicious hits seem to be intensified this year. Is it really hockey without the fighting and the board side hits?
Well, look, it's a rough sport. It's a physical sport, and guys are going to play to the edge and sometimes go over the edge because this is the playoffs, and everybody's desperate and everybody's fighting for that 1 inch of space, that one advantage to intimidate their opposition, and you're going to unfortunately have guys who go over that line, and so it's up to the NHL to met out discipline and to draw that line, and there's been a little bit of inconsistency at the start of the playoffs in terms of how they're punishing people, but overall, you're always gonna have injuries. You're always gonna have hits that are illegal because it's the nature of the sport. You're talking about guys on skates going as fast as they can in a confined space, and it's a rough sport. It's a violent sport. So I think a lot of what's gone on with the physical play has been exciting. Has added to the intrigue of the playoffs, and then there's been some stuff that's been unfortunate and over the line, and it's just a matter of kind of figuring out what's what, and having the NHL be a little more consistent in their discipline. I think that would help everybody.
Well, look, Dan, we know that all sports seem to really be cracking down on the violence in their respective games. Are you an old school guy, that likes to see the Ron Artest elbow?
Well, I think that was a little bit of an egregious situation today. You never want to see somebody cock the elbow back and follow through like he did and connect with somebody's head. That's not an acceptable way to play the game, and I think Ron Artest made a big mistake, and I think it was not necessarily premeditated, but it was definitely intentional, and you just can't do that in the game of basketball. And I like physical play as much as anybody, but that crossed the line, and he's going to have to deal with the consequences, and he'll certainly be suspended for that. And whatever the NBA decides to do with him, I'm not going to. If they give him a long suspension, I'm not going to argue.
Dan, what do you think that suspension should be? Because I've seen today people, their reaction, some of them say like 15 games. Some people are even calling for like criminal, charges to be pressed. I think that's a little bit overboard myself. What do you think is something that's appropriate for what he did and given his track history?
Yeah, it's not a criminal act. It's not going to be subject to a police investigation. It wasn't on that level.
It wasn't a table leg.
We've seen things before in sports that are bad. It's not on that level, but certainly, I think if the commissioner wanted to suspend him for the first round of the playoffs, I don't think that would necessarily be too harsh. I think minimum of 5 games and up to the first round of the playoffs would be probably appropriate.
All right, Dan, before we let you go, we want just to give some of our listeners a little taste of what you do on the Daily and how they can find your work.
Yeah, well, I'm the sports columnist for The Daily, which is the first iPad publication built specifically for tablet devices. And you can find us in the App Store. If you've got an iPad, an Android-based device, in the App Store. And it's a national newspaper that comes out every single day with content that's specific to the iPad. So check us out and download us on your device and give us a try.
Hey, you know what? We were really, really happy to have the opportunity to meet you out there in New Orleans. You must have thought, who the hell are these kids out here? And what are they doing yelling swag, swag at the Kentucky players?
You shook it up a little bit. It was funny.
Yeah, man. We enjoyed ourselves. We enjoyed meeting you guys, and we really appreciate you coming on the show.
Sure, no problem.
Awesome, man. We'll keep up with you on Twitter at Dan Wolken, and we'll have you back maybe as we get closer to the Stanley Cup Finals.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, D. Appreciate it. All right, man. Well, before we get into our NFL nuggets and preview the draft, you know who I'm always going to take in the first round?
Gary Trichter.
Oh, you better believe it as the pitcher comes out here at Junction Bar and Grill. Thank you very much, Christina, for taking care of us tonight. Glad to see you at 9:30. Yeah. All right, well, hey, you mentioned Gary Trichter, okay? H-Town's top DWI lawyer. And I always tell you, if you're going to have a drink, have a non-drinking designated driver, not J-Nature. Tonight, Coca-Cola.
Yeah, you don't want to be yo-yo in that situation.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Or you're going to have to take a cab or a limo or even sleep in the Junction RV. I don't know. You just cannot get behind your wheel because, I'll tell you what, the cops pull you over, they're going to ask you questions, and they're going to have you on video.
Yeah,
and
they're going to regulate.
Yeah. Right on. Look at Gons. He's on it, man. So be polite and ask for your lawyer before doing any test or answering any questions when you're out there doing roadside gymnastics. Continue being polite and ask for your lawyer even if the cop says you cannot have one.
Don't regulate on the cop.
Absolutely
Don't
not.
regulate on
You know why? Because you're going to be looking at more than just the 6 months in jail and the $2,000 fine and a $3,000 minimum surcharge, which is a tax on your license, including court costs and fees in excess of $2,000.
I hate seeing that word surcharge.
So just go ahead and save that $2,000 right now by plugging this number into your phone. I have it on my favorites on the iPhone, 713-524-1010. That's 713-524-1010. The Cowboy Lawyer.
Yep. Yeah.
So go ahead and cowboy up.
Speaking of Cowboys, we just brought it up with our buddy Dan Wolken, and really good to have him on the show. I enjoy following him on Twitter. He's really responsive. He loves to talk to people on Twitter, so make sure you follow him.
He will debate you about anything. If you have a controversial stance on something, he probably was one to fire back, and he also has very interesting takes himself.
Sure, and great guy to talk about the NHL with.
Yeah.
Knows his stuff. All right, well, let's get back into some hockey on hard court between the OKC Thunder and the Lakers, who were down 17 points at one point, and I thought the game was over. Celebrating Big Dog, my Mimi, and my sister's birthday today over there at the Rapp household.
Shout out to Big Dog.
Oh, love Big Dog. He just got laced up with some Diamond Supply Co. golf gear.
Wow.
Yeah, he was so stoked, and I got to say, shout out to Select Sean, who was very touched that Big Dog enjoyed that new Diamond Shine. You can get your Diamond Shine on at DiamondSupplyCo.com. I saw some Diamond Supply on the court tonight. Look, this cat right here, He had a Diamond Supply Co. shirt on courtside in L.A. as Ron Artest, boom, to the back of the net. Yep, get some of that. And James Harden did not return to this game.
Yeah, I saw someone sitting courtside with an Unpolo Ben Baller diamond piece.
Yep.
Wow.
How about that?
Might have to get Ben Baller on the show to talk a little bit
I'm waiting
about
on those sneakers.
LA sports. So.
Hey, I'm waiting on those sneakers, and I'm glad you dropped that.
It's a busy man.
I think P saw a Bruce Lee movie. I just waiting for
Hey, it is the year of the dragon.
All right, what do you guys think? Okay, because OKC, they're not quite the runaway favorite in the West anymore.
This game, you can't even. You sort of have to throw out what the result because didn't it seem like at the end of that game that the OKC Thunder could have used a small forward that can get his own shot there at the end?
That could score 40 points in a game?
Maybe like a James Harden.
That would be the sixth man of the year, hands down.
Maybe like a James Harden.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what? That really was the deciding factor because at the end of the game, when you could just tell that Kevin Durant was still trying to find his shot. He had gotten off such a bad start, and it really seemed like Westbrook was just going to drive to the hole every time he could. He would just dribble it out and then just try and take it. They were looking for that third scorer, that third person to get the offense going, and Harden wasn't there because Harden was out with what we now know is a concussion-like syndromes.
But this Lakers team has been a mess. I don't expect them to do
completely. I mean, if it wasn't for who am I thinking of today that stepped up and got the rebounds? Jordan Hill, formerly of the Rockets.
Oh God, he threw the ball away.
If it wasn't for him though, getting those rebounds at the end of that game and stepping up, I mean, they really were going to lose that game. And Kobe just made so many clutch shots, down the stretch. Difficult shots. The level of difficulty on those things was at least an 8 or a 9, or not a 10 on almost every single one of them.
Are you on that system?
I'm not on that system yet. I will be though. I will be though.
Oh man. Greatness, you'll be winning.
I have no faith that this Lakers team can stay consistent in the playoffs. We've seen this team before. Last year, I mean, we didn't know it at the time, but when they faced the Mavericks, that Mavericks team, we thought that, it would be a tough series, but the Mavericks just blew them away. And I would not be shocked if the Lakers, because we've seen this before, every time the Lakers get punched in the mouth by another team, it ends up being a long series. We've seen this before with the Rockets. We've seen this with the, it wasn't actually a long series with the Mavericks, but they've had trouble before hanging with teams that are really of a high caliber that they're not just going to back down because it's Kobe Bryant and the Lakers.
Speaking of punching in the mouth, do you think Ron Artest sent a message that he wants his team not to back down?
No, he's an idiot. That's all he is. He's just an idiot. The only message that's going to be sent is the one from David Stern to his backside when he gets suspended for 10 games or who knows for how long.
I'm going to estimate a 2-game suspension.
You aren't going to move the decimal. People are talking like 10 to 15.
No, I think they're making it
I'd say
worse
the rest
than
of
it
this
is.
is the regular season.
You know what he did?
You guys are way off. I'll make another bet right now. It's definitely going to be more than 2 games.
You say double digits.
Dang.
I don't know about double. It's going to push it.
I would say 5 games.
I would say 5 to 10. I would say 5 to 10.
5 games gives you 2 regular season games and then 3 into the first series.
Andrew wants to fill that closet up.
Do the Lakers have 2 more games?
Man.
They might just have 1 more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, anything over 1 is going to push it into the postseason.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if he missed the whole first round. Like, that was just his suspension is you missed the first round. I mean, I really don't think you realize his track history and how bad that looked.
I'm getting texts and messages. I don't know if anybody out there is on Twitter right now at Sports Rap Live. Tell us how the connection sounds. Tell us how the sound sounds, whether you're on iHeartRadio or Sports Talk 790, because get some reports out there from the Rap Pack that it might be a little choppy. So
go ahead and tune us in on your AM dial at Sports Talk 790 AM. If you're on your mobile device, you can find us on the iHeart app. Under KBME Sports Talk 790.
The thing I really want to talk about, Adam, after this whole playoff stuff, is Oklahoma City could get matched up with Dallas in the first round. A lot of intriguing matchups.
In the first round?
Yeah. Dallas is the 7 seed.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just so funny how close everything is clumped from 1 through 10.
Yeah.
Well, I would say 1 through 10, but, 4 through 10, everything is clumped together.
Right.
Dallas was just in the 5 spot 2 years ago.
And we saw last year, it doesn't really matter your seeding. It's about the matchup. San Antonio last year was the number 1 seed. They got a bad matchup with Memphis and got bounced. I mean, it went to 6 or 7 games.
6 games.
6 games. But I think Memphis, if they got the right matchup, I could see them in the Western Conference Finals. It's really about matchups.
We'll see. What do you think the Suns are going to do? You think the Suns will
I don't think the Suns, if the Suns do make it, which I don't think they will, they're not consistent at all enough. At all. They're just not.
Well, they basically don't have what made them successful.
Who is their inside
pick and roll? They have no
who is their inside
presence
to play to give them any sort of leverage on defense or to bang inside? None of them. They don't have anyone.
I don't know. We'll see. What about in the East, guys? Let's go over there. Okay, of course, the Bulls. They're not a convincing number 1 seed to me. I'm sorry, but I look at this Bulls team and I just see.
That's because you're a hater, though. Just say it. You're a hater. You're a hater. Just say it.
On shout out.
Just say it. No. Give us or
listen.
Either say you're a
let me
hater
tell
or
you.
give us a legit reason as to why you're not buying in.
I'm not buying into this Bulls team because I don't think they're going to win in the playoffs.
That you just said I don't think they're a good team because I don't think they're a good team. Why do you not think that they're going to win the playoffs?
Derrick Rose is not healthy this season. He is not going to be in there. They are winning games on their defense alone, okay, but it's going to take.
And coaching.
Okay, I'm not hating on anybody. I'm not hating on Thibodeau. I'm not.
Your first reason was that they're not a good team.
They're really not a playoff championship type team. They
have the best record in the NBA.
I would add, I guess with him, it's almost like the emergence of what the Cavaliers were with LeBron, because they had the best winning. They had their season. They were number 1 with Cleveland, but then with LeBron, it was more a mental issue with him. But with D Rose, it's been a physical issue. Even though they are number 1, it's almost like the Cavalier team that was when they made it to the playoffs and everything, but they couldn't really get it to the top.
My thing is, all these kinks are going to get worked out in the first round because whoever you play in the East is.
You want to rely on
terrible.
Boozer? You want to rely on Boozer?
I know you can't stand Boozer.
Okay, you want to rely on LeBron James?
They have the best record.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
You want to rely on Chris Bosh?
LeBron. I'm fine with Chris Bosh.
Please, if he played for the Lakers, you would call him the softest player in the NBA.
The Heat? No. I'm not a Heat lover. I mean,
Oh, come on. Just get it off your chest. You love LeBron James.
Hey, I don't
He's
care
got a
what.
man crush.
I've heard
James.
he's kind of an ass. Okay, to be honest with you, so I don't love
I take that dude on my
anybody.
team any day.
But I
Any
will
day.
put my money on LeBron James and his desire to get a ring.
Really?
He is not.
His track history
He is not
says
going
quite
to be-
the difference.
Okay, well this is.
I don't know.
Hey,
Game 5.
hope
Game 5.
springs eternal.
Game
The
5
whole
Boston.
East
Game
is
5
the
Boston.
joke,
Where was his
so
Where was his
doesn't matter.
will to win then?
His will to win was in the backseat of Delonte West's car.
Oh man.
Out in the parking lot.
I
I'm
thought
sorry.
you liked LeBron James, and now I realize you really don't.
No,
do him like that.
Hey, if somebody was doing that to my mom on my team, if you were doing that to my mom, I would be like,
Done. And then I'm supposed to pick you to win the NBA title. That's what you just did.
yeah, but Delonte is giving wet willies to dudes now. So
It was a try. It was a West Willie.
nothing to worry about.
Underage
You
kids.
know what I'm saying?
Hey, but
Come
just know
on,
this,
man.
Adam. They're going to have home court advantage throughout the playoffs, most likely. Okay.
Who is?
Chicago.
Yeah.
Because why? Because
Best
they-
record.
Because exactly, they play people in the East. That's why there's nobody in the East besides the Bulls and the Heat.
Okay. Hey, you know what? If there's no one in your division, what should you do? You should end up with the best record in the NBA, which is what
And
they
what's
did.
going to happen?
game
They play a
and
Western
half,
team.
2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, they
It's
have
still
some-
the best record.
San Antonio has throwaway games that are in your face. Pop is telling you, by the way, tonight's game does not matter. You might as well go ahead and put down an L.
That's what you do with a veteran team. This Chicago team's a little bit younger. Oh, actually, a lot younger.
Yeah.
A lot. I think
And they're getting
younger,
hurt,
too.
and that's the problem.
And they all
Unexperienced
brought those
coach.
Boozer as their power forward.
You just don't like Boozer. Just say it. I don't like Boozer. Say it.
I hate Boozer.
Let's get it out your system so we can move on and talk about the Heat.
Let's
We
talk about the
Bulls.
Indiana Pacers, okay? We're staying in the East now. We've already talked about the West. Let's talk about the East. The Pacers are surprising me. And this is exactly how Larry Bird wants his team to be.
Name me 2
Very
players
quiet.
on the Pacers team.
George
Danny
Hill.
Granger, George Hill.
All right.
Oh, man.
The reason I ask is because you look at the record and you're like, how are they doing this? You don't really realize the
Exactly.
roster they have, the kind of team they've compiled up. Now that they have Darren Collison, George Paul, Danny Granger, they got Psycho T, Tyler Hansbrough, Roy Hibbert, George Hill. I mean, they got a lot of nice guys they've stacked
Psycho
up.
T.
Psycho T.
Psycho T.
And they even have, I'm looking on the roster, Lance Stevenson, born ready. He is not.
I agree with what Andrew said. I think a lot of it's going to boil down to matchups and coaching, that 7-game series. I think we're going to see a lot of new blood break out this playoffs and potentially quite a few upsets.
Well, who in the lower half of the Eastern bracket has a chance to knock off one of the big dogs?
Not Orlando. They have
Oh,
no.
God, they're done.
They have no
They're
Dwight
over.
Howard. They can't beat Indiana. Atlanta, Boston.
Can we put a kibosh on saying Dwight Howard's name until
Dude, he's out with back surgery. You would
until
have thought
2012 and 2013?
you would have thought he got a hysterectomy the way you talk about him.
Yeah.
Seriously, the way you talk about him, you would have thought that's the surgery he had.
It's pretty much what he did because he had no balls in going out the way he did
Man.
and basically getting surgery instead of playing for a coach.
I think Atlanta could go head-to-head with Boston. I know Boston's been playing a lot better, but Atlanta has been shown to go. They've taken Boston to a 7-game series before where it got really weird as the home court advantage was pretty much, what the deciding factor was in that series when they played, what was it, a couple years ago? Atlanta and Boston?
Yep.
Miami and New York. I think that's still Miami. I
Yep.
give New York. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, Pete, but I don't give your Knicks that much chance.
Shout out to Premium Pete, of course. All right, real quick, let's go around the table. Predictions. Who you got?
For what?
Finals. Who you got in the finals? Yep.
I'm gonna say Spurs and Heat.
Spurs and Heat. Okay. Andrew.
I got Heat and OKC because that's what I want to see.
Yes, sir. Right here.
Me too. Hey, Kadoma, who you got in the finals?
I think I have Miami and man, I don't know. The West is just—it's going to boil down to
wide open.
matchup.
Just go ahead.
I'm gonna
Okay.
call the Thunder. I'll go with the Thunder.
All right, so that's 4 out of 5 here at the table right here, and that's 4 out of 5 people out there that love Sports Rap Live. So make sure you tune in and make it 5 out of 5. And we're gonna take a quick break here. When we get back, we're gonna keep our eye on the diamond, talk some Major League Baseball, and still to come, shout out Sundays. Make sure you get on the line now, 713-212-5790. It's a Sunday night. We're going until 10:30. So jump on the line while you can, and we will shout you out and let you come on and shout out who you want to in the world of sports right here on Sports Rap Live.